The most recent video I published was an overview of a wave of figures that had come from Walmart. And one of those figures was a newly released R2-Detoo from the vintage collection. And one of the comments on that video was asking me, or mostly, I don't know, conjecturizing that was most likely just a repaint or a retool of a previous R2-Detoo figure that we had gotten. Now, I don't know a whole lot about that type of stuff, but it seemed logical to me, and I answered the commenter by saying, yeah, most likely that's the case. You're talking to a guy who buys lots of clones and stormtroopers, and most of those are repaints a lot of times too. So I just assumed that's the case with that recent R2-Detoo figure. But I realized that I was getting in a couple more R2-Detoo based figures, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to compare those and see if in fact they are all simply repaints. Let's get into this. All right, welcome to another episode of Paul's Collectibles. It's good to have you. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new vintage collection astromech droid, Antoc Merrick's R2-SHW. Now this guy had a blink and you'll miss it moment in Rogue One, and frankly, I guess the only reason they probably made this guy is so he can go with that new Antoc Merrick X-Wing fighter and figure that we got recently, which unfortunately I don't have. But we're going to take a look at it, but we're also going to compare it to two other R2-Detoo figures, type R2-Detoo figures at least, that I recently got in to see if they're actually simply repaints that Hasbro is giving us. Now, whether this turns out to be a yes or a no, I want to point out right off the bat, I don't care. I don't mind. I don't mind repaints. Big fan. Like I said, clone troopers, stormtroopers, most of the time it's just repaints and I'll eat them up. So under the circumstances, if that turns out to be true, I'm not worried about it. But let's get these things in front of some lights, take a look at that R2-SHW figure, and then compare him to some of his twins. Okay, so there we have Star Wars The Rogue One R2-SHW. I wonder where they got the SHW from. I assume a lot of that stuff means something to somebody. I wonder if it's because it's from some sort of show or something like that. But anyway, Antoc Merrick's droid. And this is obviously some sort of screen cap or re-rendering from the battle on Scarif. And I gotta be perfectly honest with you, it's a little flat. There's not a lot of depth or contrast to the image. You barely can see the droid in there, and I'm a little disappointed with this card. I would like to have seen him posed outside of his R2 socket, standing next to this full-size X-Wing, maybe at the hangar on Yavin 3 or something to that effect. But as it stands, this is kind of, well, it's underwhelming, and I'm not a big fan of that card. But it's got the yellow name pill and the yellow name back. And if we get in close on R2-SHW here, he's not a bad looking R2 type droid. It actually does look a lot like R2-Detoo, or at least the R2-Detoos we've been getting. If you look on the top there, you can see one of the blue parts of the top of his head is sticking out as if that's where the Sensorscope is supposed to go. I imagine that would be standard on R2 units anyway. But another hint that he may look a lot like the ones we've already gotten. But I'm not a big Droids fan, and I don't pick up a lot of the robots, but I gotta be honest with you, I do like that red. It's kind of cool, it really pops. It's just a shame they didn't do him very much justice on the card. And R2-SHW is VC260. And really quick, something to note, as of the filming of this video, this case is available, but there's still a blank spot. But it would appear that they accidentally let the cat out of the bag, because although this artillery stormtrooper figure has been pipelined, he hasn't been officially announced, but here he is on the back of the card. I can't wait for that one. But let's compare this guy to his cousins now. Okay. So obviously we have R2-SHW on the left, and this is the recently released Empire Strikes Back R2-Detoo vintage collection with the Sensorscope, which is the which is the figure that showed up in the video where someone asked, hey, he just looks like a repaint of previous ones we've gotten. And I took a quick look at them before I put them down, and if you compare the two figures, let's bring them up close here, you can really see that if we look, everything is exactly the same. So right here, let's get these where you can see them. Right here, the same blue readouts, the same red readout here. He's got the same vents, all the same vents. The cords on his rolling feet are the same, and the sides of them are exactly the same. And it would appear to me that rather than pack the Sensorscope separate like they did here. It's either jammed down in there or he doesn't actually have the Sensorscope and the lid just kind of sticks up a little bit on him. But if you look closely, exactly the same figure, just simply repainted. So with that one,
survey set,
repaint. Next step, let's compare him to the Star Wars Droids 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm R2-D2 figure. Now this one is painted kind of funny, obviously, because it's meant to match the cartoon. But if you look closely, once again, you can see in the mold, although this one here doesn't have all the same detailing, like the vents here aren't painted, the little opening bays right here are not painted. But if you look, all of them are there, and they are present on this R2-SHW figure as well. The dome is exactly the same. This one does not appear to have the opening on the top that will open, so maybe it's glued in there or it's pushed down more in the package. I can't tell. And I never would have bought this figure, but Big Bad Toy Store had him on sale, or was it Dorkside Toys, for like $6.99, so I went ahead and picked him up. But once again, if you compare, absolutely the exact same figure, just repainted. So there you have it, just a quick overview of Rogue One R2-SHW Antoc Merrick's droid, and then a quick comparison with two of the more recent R2 units that we've gotten, the one with the Sensorscope from the recent release from the Walmart wave and the one from the Droids line. And as I showed you, they're exactly the same figure, just simple repaints. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, that doesn't bother me one bit. I don't mind repaints, no one's forcing me to buy them, and frankly I didn't used to buy these droids, but I'm kind of getting excited about them now for some strange reason, plus this red one is really cool. So there you have it. And if you're not a subscriber, maybe consider doing that for me. That's a great way to support my efforts here at Paul's Collectibles. And if you are a subscriber, have been supporting me for quite a while, I greatly appreciate it. But with that, I'll see you on the next video.